I'm yet to find a clear, hard evidence that this government or the Prime Minister has a very cohesive, well thought out economic philosophy or strategy that is suited for India. This government, this regime is guided by voodoo economists who do not know, where did we come from? What was India's economy? They are trying to market selling away public sector as a reform. It's not reform. If you want to reform, you reform the way it is functioning. You reform the way it is run. That this government abnormalizes things that are normal and normalizes things that are abnormal. In the long run, if the government is smart, it would like some kind of critical voices to come out, isn't it? Because after all, they have to make course correction. Now, no one government, no one person, no one collection of people, no one committee can know everything. But they are suppressing data. They don't want people to speak truth to power.
Hello and welcome to No Filter with Dhanya Rajendran. In our series of interviews from Hyderabad, joining me today is Dr. Parakala Prabhakar, an economist and someone whose recent book created a lot of ripples, many interviews, controversies around it. My first question, the book, The Crooked Timber of New India, you start with speaking about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's speeches. So for our audiences, tracking the Independence Day speeches of the Prime Minister, how much has Narendra Modi changed?
Oh, if you allow me, I would also draw your attention to what the present Prime Minister and then the Prime Ministerial candidate of the BJP, Gujarat Chief Minister, used to say during the election campaign in the run-up to the 2014 elections. He used to say, look, the fight is not between the Hindus and Muslims. It is the fight between Hindus and Muslims on the one side, and corruption, unemployment, and policy paralysis, etc., on the other. So Hindus and Muslims together will have to fight unemployment and poverty. That's what he used to say. Now, look at the way the narrative has completely changed today. We have come very far, and as you yourself said, you don't even remember those words of the present Prime Minister, those words spoken by many BJP leaders then and even before, and today what is the political narrative. If you allow me, I'll just give you one example, one illustration. You remember 10 years ago, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, the BJP also used to say that it was a secular party. They used to say, we are secular, but we are genuinely secular, not like Congress and communists and other parties. They are pseudo-seculars.
Because they appease the minorities.
Yes, they appease, and we are genuinely secular. We don't appease anybody. We deal with all of them on an equal footing. Sarva dharma samabhav. That's what they used to say. But remember that the narrative used to have secularism as the central point. Today, no BJP leader, of course, even the Prime Minister, speaks about secularism anymore. On the other hand, every other political party, every other political leader today says that we are also Hindu. But we are not like them. We are a different kind of a Hindu. Although all these leaders and people heading secular platforms, liberal platforms, diverse platforms, they say that we are also Hindu, we are Janudhari, we also do puja, we also do part, but not like them. We don't use Hinduism and religion for political purposes. So my point is that, from secularism being the central narrative of Indian polity, today it has completely disappeared. In just about 9 to 10 years' time, that is the major transformation that has occurred in the Indian political discourse. And the Prime Minister's speeches from the ramparts of Red Fort is just a part of that. He used to say that, we're Team India. Team India is Prime Minister and all the Chief Ministers. Today, the Chief Ministers are nowhere. The Prime Minister in the first, second, and probably third used to talk about him as the Pradhan Sevak, the prime servant, and also used to acknowledge the contributions of all the previous Prime Ministers. Today, it is Ek Akela. He is the only one. In fact, I also draw people's attention to this in my book, that he doesn't even acknowledge the contribution of one of the tallest leaders of his own party, that is Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Everybody else before 2014 is reduced to a non-entity. Nothing has ever happened in India. Nobody did anything. And everything started only in 2014 and only with the present Prime Minister. That is the kind of narrative that is flooding every vein of our information infrastructure.
But if you look at Narendra Modi's progression as a politician, even when he was a Gujarat Chief Minister, he was someone who was speaking for federalism. He talked about the rights of states. How do you think that changed so drastically? Why do you believe the Prime Minister thinks of projecting himself as the only one out there, when he was a politician who came through these federal interest and state interest, and that's what he spoke about?
You see, I do not know what exactly happens in his mind.
I don't think anybody does other than him.
Yes, and I'm no exception. But his stance against Aadhaar, his stance as Chief Minister, his stance against GST, and a lot of other things, they have completely changed once he came to Delhi and became the Prime Minister. Which means that, he probably has this as the core, what we see today. And when he was elsewhere, probably he was just doing a role play, whatever. If you see the economy, Danya, just about 2-3 days ago, the Reserve Bank of India had given us the figures. In this government, I must point it out, that it is very difficult to get authentic, credible data. You have to rely on, so many other, especially, CMI kind of a thing. But in this case, the household savings have contracted by 19% in the last financial year. And then, you have unacceptable level of inflation. You have unacceptable level of unemployment. And youth unemployment especially. And youth constitutes about 53% of our population. We talk about demographic dividend. I deal with it, and my conclusion is that not only the youth of India is unemployed, but because of lack of skills, it is a large part of it is also unemployable today, because your Skill India has failed. Many other programs, many related programs have also failed. Now, you have a huge youth unemployment. Your labor participation ratio is unacceptably bad. And in that, women's part is very, very disappointing. Inflation is very high. Not just the headline inflation, but if you look at the disaggregated figures of food unemployment, medical and health, food inflation, medical and health inflation, etc., they are also at a very, very unacceptable levels. The rural economy, which received a huge battering because of the mindless demonetization that this government has embarked upon, And after that, immediately after that, you had this COVID and lockdowns and other things. The unorganized sector in our economy has, especially the rural economy, has received a pounding. And even today, I can tell you that we have not gone back to what we were in terms of our economic strength and economic size of the economy to pre-pandemic level, 2019.
But Dr. Prabhakar, what happened during the COVID pandemic where the economy has taken a blow? That's not specific to India. That did not happen just to India. It's across the world. And the IMF has said that it is going to take a few years. They've given 2023 when slowly the recovery will start. So can we really blame the Narendra Modi government? Because this is a universal phenomenon. All countries have suffered, some better than us, some worse than us.
There is the rub. Some more than us, some less than us. That's what you said. You see, we have suffered the worst. Remember, in one quarter during the pandemic, our economy went into minus 24%. It was minus 24%. No other economy in the world has gone that bad. One. Secondly, our stimulus package was wrongly targeted. The government will say that, because we have done that kind of a stimulus package, we are now better off and our inflation is under control. But inflation is not under control. Even today, just today, the RBI says that inflation is now a very unmanageable thing. Now, the stimulus package was addressed to the supply side of the economy. All over the world, stimulus packages, including the United States, it almost went into the Keynesian mode and did a stimulus package which addressed the demand side of the economy. Now, very briefly, I'll tell you what it is. Now, you are manufacturing, you are a supply side. I am the consumer. I have not had any income for the last several months because of lockdown, because everything is shut down. Instead of helping me to buy things that are being produced by you, if the government gives you money to produce more, who is going to buy it? Because there's a huge glut, there's a huge amount of capacity which is not bought because the people have no purchasing power. So it was addressed on a wrong footing. It was addressed wrongly. That is the reason why our economy had done much worse than many other economies. One. Secondly, look at the number of people who have fallen from middle class to poverty, and those who were in poverty have gone into deep deprivation. The numbers are staggering. I deal with those numbers in our book. That is not the case in many of the economies because of the demand side stimulus that the governments have come up with. That distinguishes our economy from the others' economy, and that also distinguishes our economy because we already started at a disadvantage because of the demonetization.
So in the book, you are sort of you speak a lot about economy and how it's not doing well, and you pin the blame sort of on absence of organized economic thought and competent economic advisors. You then say that New India has fallen prey to voodoo economists. So do you think what is playing out in India is because of bad advice to the government? Is that what you are trying to say in this?
See, my overall point is this, Dhanya, that this government and the party, the ruling party, do not have a cohesive economic thinking. I'll tell you why I say this. Because if you remember, in 1980 when the party was founded, in the Bombay Adhiveshan, the creed of the party was Gandhian socialism. That was the creed. Nobody knows when that was dropped. It was dropped. Very quietly it was buried. And 1991 reforms were opposed. And today they're talking about reforms, they're talking about, farm laws, and they're talking about unshackling the economy. The Prime Minister also talked about, government has no business in being in business. Very Thatcherite, very, Friedrich Hayek kind of a thing, Reagan, Thatcher, Hayek, neoliberal, Washington consensus language. Today the government speaks. And look at the demonetization. Does the government understand how black money is hoarded? Black money is not hoarded in cash. Black money is hoarded in buildings, house sites, flats, assets, gold, and other things. Unless the bribe was taken just about a couple of days ago, and then you didn't have time to convert that into all these assets, no black money is stored in cash. So to target cash and demonetize about 86% of the cash in the economy is shooting the tires of a car. Somebody said that which was going very fast. One. And then what happened? And then black money, when the black money thing did not work out, they said because it's we wanted to digitize the economy, reduce the cash, etc. But Dhanya, please understand, when demonetization was announced, the cash in circulation in Indian economy was about 17 lakh crores or 18 lakh crores, around that figure. Today, it's more than double. It's about 35 lakh crores, which is in circulation. So what happened to the cash? Cash has not come down. One. So, and why did this happen? Because there was no cohesive economic thinking. And as I call, people who don't understand even 101 of economics. Economics 101 is also not very clear to the people who are making the economic policy decisions and implementing. And that is the reason why I call people who could think of demonetization, people who could think of, supply side stimulus, people who could think of, all the different kind of programs which are not even implemented. It could be Make in India, it could be Skill India, it could be, Stand Up India, it could be all these wonderful programs, to listen to hear the slogans. But then nothing really is on the ground. That is the reason why I say that this government, this regime is guided by voodoo economists who do not know, where did we come from? What was India's economy in 1947, 48 and today? And what was the nature of the change that had taken place in 1991? What is the fallout of that? What kind of a pivot that, we had embarked on? Absolutely no clue.
So, a couple of things I want to ask from this. One is that you spoke about a cohesive economic thought. Now, I can argue back that the Prime Minister is not under any obligation to follow what his own party or his predecessors in the party thought about economy, right? He can have a completely new thought. The second thing I want to ask is, do you believe that a lot of this happens because of lack of data and the fact that this government is extremely stingy about data? You know what happened to Business Standard when they put out the unemployment data. The government said, no, this is not a data. And then soon after the election, they released it. So two questions in one, but if you can take that.
I would agree. I mean, the Prime Minister doesn't have to toe the party economic philosophy. I mean, one thing, of course, the party doesn't have an economic philosophy, but I'm yet to, come to some kind of conclusion that the Prime Minister himself has a cohesive economic thinking.
You're saying he doesn't have?
I mean, there is no proof to come to that kind of conclusion. I'm not saying that it doesn't have, but you see, how do you know that you have a cohesive economic thinking? I have a cohesive economic thinking, or a party has, or an individual has, or a leader has, on the basis of what kind of measures that they are taking, isn't it? I'll give you an example. For instance, look at Visakhapatnam Steel. Visakhapatnam Steel is in losses. They want to, monetize it and privatize it, sell it off, etc. There are like so many other things, and they are also trying to tell us that government has no business in being in business. Very Thatcherite, very Reaganite, very Alfred von Hayek kind of economic philosophy. That's fine. That's also one kind of an idea. But they are trying to market selling away public sector as a reform. It's not reform. If you want to reform, you reform the way it is functioning. You reform the way it is run. You reform the way it is structured. You reform the way it is making money or making losses. You try to, shore it up. Because Visakhapatnam steel plant doesn't have a captive mine. You give it a mine and see if it is work. If it doesn't work, then do whatever you want. Or you try and transform or change the management principles. You don't do that, which goes to show me I'm yet to find a clear, hard evidence that this government or the Prime Minister has a very cohesive, well thought out economic philosophy or strategy that is suited for India. I'll tell you why I said that is suited for India. Now, Indian economy is a darling of the world. A lot of these credit agencies, IMF, as you mentioned, and World Bank, etc., they praise. And the government also would like us to believe that we are the fastest growing economy. I would like India to be fastest growing economy. I would like Indian economy to be the darling of the world. I'm fine with it. But then, what is the reality? We had about 125 billionaires about 10 years ago. Today we have 145 billionaires. Does that mean that we are really progressing? And you see, the government seems to, labor under this impression that you give 2 or 3 cylinders to common person and 2 or 3 airports to your friends. Show that as, Labharti and Labharti kind of a politics. But you see, that is not going to help your economy, because if you do not address inequalities, if you look at only the number of billionaires, a number of upper middle class, 1 or 2 or 3% of, economic players, this is no evidence of a cohesive economic thinking about the Indian economy, its realities. That is my contention.
And my second question about the data, the lack of data, is that what drives a lot of this? Why do you think the government is so secretive about data?
Because you see, you mentioned about the unemployment data. They did want, because you see, that unemployment data, if you recall, was to tell the country and reveal that we had high unemployment any time in the last 45 years or 50 years. That was the figure that was coming out, and the government panicked. They disbanded the office of the Statistical Commission, and disbanded in the sense, private members resigned, only government members remained. That became dysfunctional. And government, went on telling even to the parliament that they didn't have data on, unemployment. They didn't have data on migrant labor. They didn't have data on so many things. They didn't have data. But the irony is this. On the one side, the government doesn't have data on these very important things. The Prime Minister, during the Karnataka campaign, tells many public meetings that he was abused by the opposition leaders 99 times. Very precise. Not even 100, not even 98. So they know what are the things to, keep track of, what are the things to, compute, what are the things to count. But when it comes to unemployment, hospital beds, migrant labor, inflation, on these things they don't have. And you see, there are so many half-truths. The Prime Minister says that every 2 days this is happening, every 1 day that is happening, every 1 hour this is happening, which is, it's very sad that the head of the government speaks that, and it is completely, publicly challenged. And the government has no answer to this. look at the, I don't know if you recall, there's a huge agitation in Bihar some time ago, about last year, early last year, about railway recruitment.
Yes, yes.
Huh? I'll remind you of the exact numbers. There were 35,000 positions announced for recruitment, what they call NTPC, non-technical popular categories, which means that, unskilled labor, nothing else. It's a euphemism for unskilled labor. For 35,000 jobs, the applicants were 1 crore 25 lakhs. That tells you what the new India's economic situation is. This government eventifies things. And I also say that this government abnormalizes things that are normal and normalizes things that are abnormal. If you allow me, I'll elaborate this. I'll tell you what. For instance, look at the G20. It's a very normal kind of a thing. It's a, one nation passes the baton on to the other one for a year, and then it goes on and on, goes on and on and on. But then look at the way we have eventified it and abnormalized it, as though the entire world had come to India and said, please lead us. We are at a loss. We are at a sea. We don't know what to do, about the world, about the climate change, about, energy crisis and all those things, war and other things. Please lead us, give us light, that kind of thing. But then it passed on to Brazil. Does that mean that the entire world is now going to Brazil and asking them to, guide them? It's not. It's a routine thing. So the point that I'm making is that they are abnormalizing things that are normal and normalizing things that are abnormal. For instance, Nanya, during the COVID, hundreds of dead bodies have floated in the,
Ganga River,
sacred Ma Ganga. That's an abnormal thing. But then, you see, the government and the ruling party machinery have swung into action to tell us that it is very normal. Certain castes, they do the burial, what is called water burial. Now, an abnormal thing they try to normalize. Now, tell me, do you or anybody in Uttar Pradesh recollect before the pandemic so many water burials, or after the pandemic many water burials? Today, why don't we find them? We don't find them. But you see, that is the art and craft that this government and this ruling dispensation under New India has, perfected, has mastered. Now, I don't have to go very far to or labor to make people understand what is this New India, because every day somebody or the other is making our job easy to understand what is New India. The other day, one Mr. Ramesh Bidhuri in Lok Sabha made us very enlightened about what is New India. At Dharma Samsad and a group of Swamijis make us easy to understand. New India is accessible. And Brij Bhushan, somebody who is
the Wrestling Federation, yes.
The Wrestling Federation, he makes us understand what is New India. Rashtrapati being not invited to the inauguration of the new parliament, or even, for the consecration of a new parliament building, or even the foundation laying of a new parliament, that tells us what is New India. I do not want to go into, the kind of either caste discrimination or gender discrimination, but it's all there for all of us to see.
So, Dr. Prabhakar, before I move to the Hindutva part of the book, I want to quickly ask one question. You have one chapter about eventifying the PM. You did mention the word now. The PM and anything that he does is a huge event for the government, for the BJP. What is wrong in that part?
Well, the question that you put now is a direct consequence of the government normalizing something which is abnormal.
So I definitely think it's wrong. I'm trying to put every question as someone who would...
As an interrogation.
Yes, exactly.
I understand.
Yeah.
But you see, I tell you what, the Prime Minister goes abroad. And when he comes back, the entire cabinet, the entire party, the party functionaries, and so many, people, cadre are gathered around to, welcome him to a drum beat, and there are dances and other things. Then there are, the ruling party president praising the prime minister that, he went abroad and visited the different countries and enlightened them, gave them jnana and things like that. He's on record. I've quoted him also. This is abnormalizing. People go, they come back. These are diplomatic exchanges that happen. There's nothing so great about it. And not only this, and there are so many things which are, for instance, on a particular day, which happens to be the Prime Minister's birthday, I'm talking about the vaccination thing. There's crores of vaccinations were conducted. Very good. But then what happened? If you see even COVID portal, 4 or 5 days before that and after that, there's complete dip. Which means that, the vaccines, doses, and the personnel were being conserved just to eventify one day. And then after that, there is a lull. That is very normal. See, I'll give you, just to illustrate a rough example. If there are 10 vaccinations every day, that is the norm which was going on. Before this particular day, there was 1 or 2 and 1 or 2. And suddenly on that particular day, there was 100. And the following 4 or 5 days, there are just 1 or 2 and 1 or 2. What does it mean?
But hasn't the media also played a large role in normalizing? Now, you are speaking about Narendra Modi's foreign visits or the vaccination. But I can think of examples where a picture of him talking on the phone, a picture of him sitting in the veranda saying the Prime Minister is involved in the COVID pandemic fight. Hasn't the media, you think, played it's not just the BJP anymore, right? It's not just the government anymore.
That's the tragedy, actually. I also talk about, you must have come across the Faustian bargain. I found a trend that many in the media, in the academia, even the bureaucracy, scientific community, and, across the board, especially in the professions, people who are in the trade and industry, captains of industry, etc., etc. It's become a very common trend for all these people to go on praising the ruling party, the Prime Minister, and glorifying, that kind of a thing. Media is no exception. The newsrooms, they show only that. When people don't talk about, see, for instance, when the dollar, the rupee was about to breach 80 per dollar, there was, a bit of restlessness in the economy. And 1 or 2 days the media talked about it. Today it doesn't. And it has not come down. It's 83 rupees or more than 83 rupees today. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed in unemployment. Nothing has changed in inflation. Don't talk about it. You see, the narrative is set in a way that they want to show the government in a brighter light, favorable light. And this I see as a compromise on the part of a large section of the mainstream media. There are probably some, respectable.
I call them honorable exceptions.
Honorable exceptions. They probably are. But you see, when the Prime Minister speaks to a science congress and says that plastic surgery was there, in ancient India, there was no silence. People were clapping, and they're all very eminent scientists who had the entry into the hall which was holding the science congress. that is the kind of civil society that this government is encouraging and this government wants. And large sections of civil society, that is the problem actually. Large sections of civil society who are influential, they may be small, but influential, loud, who can set the narrative, like media. These people are playing the government's game, the regime's game. So that is the problem. In fact, in the long run, if the government is smart, it would like some kind of critical voices to come out, isn't it? Because after all, they have to make course correction. Now, no one government, no one person, no one collection of people, no one committee can know everything. But they are suppressing data. They don't want people to speak truth to power. There are raids on media organizations, on journalists. Tomorrow you could be raided, I could be raided.
We have been raided. We had for 3 years. Yes.
Again, you could be raided, I could be raided, you can be put behind bars, I could be put behind bars. This is what this government is doing.
So now we have discussed about the economy. I want to discuss the parts where you speak about Hindutva. For the people who are watching this, there's a very interesting story that you narrate and then look at how Indians behave, which is the rabbit and the duck. Why did you use that comparison, and how do you see Indians as looking at that picture of the rabbit and the duck?
It's a very interesting part of psychology experiment. It's a rabbit-duck illusion, it's called. Now, if you see, the picture is such, it's there in my book, the picture is such that if you see, you can see a duck, either a duck or a rabbit. But if you see carefully, you will see the one who sees duck can also see rabbit, the one who sees rabbit can also see duck. But the point is that, once you see duck and not see the rabbit, once you see a rabbit, you don't see the duck. With effort, you have to
find the
other one. I bring it into the narrative because, you see, we landed today in this situation where divisiveness is the creed, the othering of minorities. I'll illustrate. Today, the largest political party in the country, and putatively the largest political party in the world, is not a microcosm of Indian society. By which I mean that today the Council of Ministers in the center does not have a single member belonging to the largest minority, that is Muslim in India. The ruling party, which is again the largest political party in India and the world putatively, does not have a single member either in the Lok Sabha or in the Rajya Sabha belonging to the minority community, Muslim. They don't have. And in Gujarat and in Uttar Pradesh and in recently held Karnataka, this party has not given a single ticket to a Muslim minority candidate, leave alone winning. They don't have a minister, they don't have a member of...
they didn't give any tickets also.
No ticket at all. So that is the kind of divisiveness and othering of the minorities that is happening in this country.
So how are the people looking at the rabbit and duck illustration?
Now, when was this kind of a politics most propitious? When the ground in India was very fertile to this kind of a politics. That was immediately after the partition. When hundreds and hundreds of dead bodies came from the other side of the border to this side, and from this side went on to the other side of the border. That was the time. But then, and those days, there were very tall leaders advocating this kind of a polity, this kind of a politics. Shyama Prasad Mukherjee, Guru Goldwalkar, Balraj Madhav, Swami Karapatri ji, and people like that. Very tall people. compared to them, what we have are very little people today. But this has now become a dominant narrative politically, because people started seeing only one side of Indian reality. People are now looking at India, a lot of them looking at India as a Hindu country. You can talk to people, and today they say, Hindus, we are the largest. Why can't this be Hindu country? Why should the government interfere in this? Why should the government interfere in that? And why should Muslims be here? They could have gone away to Pakistan, and today they can go to Pakistan. Why are they here? Which means that, looking at India and looking at only one side of India, and not in its diversity, not in its secular, ethos, not in its liberal ethos, but looking at India as belonging to one religion. People belonging to one religion own this country. And majority were wronged by the minority for a long time. And this is the time to pay back. Kind of a narrative today has taken hold and taken grip. That is why I say, look, when you talk about, or when you tell them to look, this is not our creed. Our creed is liberal creed. Our creed is diverse creed. Our creed is secular creed. Then they say, come back and say, they shot back at you saying that, look, this is a Hindu country. So which means they're looking at one part of the rabbit and duck. They are not able to look at both.
So you also say that, I'm quoting from the book, Hindu majoritarian ideology is more acceptable today than it ever was, even in the years immediately after partition. The key to understanding this crooked timber of New India, there lies solving the puzzle, right? So for the BJP, this looks like a victory. If you are saying that Hindu majoritarian ideology is more prevalent now than during the partition, isn't that itself a victory for the BJP? Because that's what they have been working towards. And there is also a contribution of other parties, right? For example, from how Rajiv Gandhi dealt with opening up the Ram Mandir to what we have seen the history over the years. Don't you think that what you said, the crooked timber of New India, it would actually be a compliment to Narendra Modi and the BJP and the Sangh?
Dhanya, when I said that, I was serious and I meant it. I mean it. This is no mean achievement of the people who believe in this kind of a narrative, that India is for the Hindus. That kind of a narrative used to be on the fringes. People used to, hesitate to talk about this in public forums. Today you have the so-called respected academics fulminating against Mahatma Gandhi. What did he do? What is this? He betrayed India. He was, calling the names.
So they've mainstreamed it.
They mainstreamed it. And this is no mean achievement. I'll tell you why I say this. When all the other so-called secular, liberal political platforms were sleepwalking from one election to the other, not doing any ideological work in between, there were organizations, platforms which put in hard work for long years, away from the limelight, without expecting any rewards, let alone electoral rewards, absolutely nothing. Even if 10 people are there to listen to them, they would still speak. That kind of a long years of hard work was put in by Sangh Parivar and its organizations, etc., etc. And this is the culmination of that. That is the reason why I say the fight is not merely electoral. even if in the unlikely event or likely event of 2014 throwing up a different kind of a government,
2024.
24 throwing up a different kind of a government or different government, still the fight is not going to be conclusive. The victory is not going to be conclusive for the secular narrative, because the poison has gone so deep into the body politic of India. The othering, the divisiveness, that look, we own this country. All others will have to accept our superiority, accept our, primacy, and then you live under us. Be content with second-class citizenship, etc., etc. This has, gone so deep that it would take at least about if not 2 decades, at least a decade and a half of continuous ideological work, not electoral politics merely, to excise from the minds of Indians, a lot of Indians, this kind of a communal poison.
But that's why I asked the question I spoke about Rajiv Gandhi, where in the book you say that it will take a long time. Now you said the same thing now, that at least 20 years for this kind of a politics to go away from the minds of people. But can we really trust the other parties? Look, the Rajiv Gandhi Ram Mandir stories and so many other things that we have seen through history, right? Can they be given the responsibility of doing this? Are they even capable of it?
I'm very skeptical about it. I'm not optimistic about it, because you see, as I write it very clearly in my book, that with a very few, as you say, honorable exceptions, every political platform in the country has done business with this kind of a narrative. Starting from DMK, AIDMK, Telugu Desam Party, Trinamool Congress, everybody, including the National Conference, everybody have done business one way or the other, either directly or indirectly, supporting or being in the government or whatever. So they have, all these people have given under the false impression of, somewhere they all came to the conclusion that India now has settled between, slightly right of the center and slightly left of the center, a tussle between these two forces, and nobody is going to go extremes, etc. And that kind of impression they have got, and they did business with even BJP, for a long time. And that is the, today what we see is the result of that kind of a politics of compromise, politics of doing business with this kind of an extreme communal ideology.
I have 2 quick questions before we wrap up. You do dwell a lot upon the politics of the RSS, where they speak about population growth. The Prime Minister himself has warned India about the implosion of population. And this is a narrative that you hear even from regular Indians. Look at the population growth, and then the conversation shifts to one community is responsible for that growth. What do the numbers say?
You see, if you look at the TFR, total fertility rate, has been progressively coming down, and the gap between the Hindus and the Muslims in many parts has narrowed and almost equal, including Assam, where the Chief Minister talks about the Muslims increasing their population, and tomorrow we may not have any place to live, but they might even come into my own house, and that kind of a very objectionable kind of a rhetoric from a constitutional authority and including in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, and large number of states, it is equal. No Muslim is having more children than a Hindu couple. Everybody is having 1 or 2 or even 1. It's 2.1 is the replacement number. We are more or less there, and national survey after survey, especially the health surveys, tell us in almost all the states, the TFR is more or less the same between the Hindus and Muslims. And recently, because some states were not surveyed during the pandemic, after the pandemic, they, wherever the survey has taken place, has also borne out this fact. One, not only that, that the union government has submitted an affidavit to the Supreme Court saying that there is no, because there was somebody who did who filed a public litigation, public interest litigation, and the government of India has sworn affidavit submitted to the Supreme Court in which it says that the TFR is coming down, and there is not much of a gap. It is actually, we can't further reduce this because we are in danger of becoming like Japan or somebody like that, and some other country like that. So there is no need to impose any restriction on the fertility. That is the government of India's official position. But when that is happening on the one hand, on the other, the Prime Minister talks about the population increase, which is completely against, contradicting his own government's position. And when that is happening, Uttar Pradesh has introduced a bill, disincentivizing the number of children for families. I don't know where it is going to be applicable because nobody is going. But you see, these were all done before the elections, and Assam government is trying to copy this. Gujarat government was trying to copy this, and before the elections here in Karnataka also they were trying to copy this. But the point is this: numbers are completely different from what the BJP says and what Prime Minister says. So that is the reason why I say that politics and policy. Your politics is completely not in consonance with the policy. Your policy is not at all in consonance with the politics.
My final question to you, sir, though we speak a lot about demonetization, about a lot of things and criticize the government, at the end of the day, for a lot of Indians, the question is the Tina factor. They say there is no alternative. Where is the other leader? Who is the prime ministerial candidate from the other side? You have too many chief ministers who want to become prime ministers, or even a Rahul Gandhi who wants to become prime minister. In fact, someone recently told me that the current prime minister is strong enough to ward off any dangers that India faces from foreign countries. So, Tina factor still matters to a lot of Indians.
You see, then I'm not concerned about who is the leader and who can replace who. I'm not concerned about that. What I'm concerned is the path we are going down on is a dangerous path. It is taking us away, far away from the founding principles of our republic. Whether you do that or I do that or he does it or anybody does it, I do not know who does that. But whoever is doing it, I'm not looking at that as a person. That should be arrested. That drift, that trend should be arrested. If they correct it, that's fine. If not, look, when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister, who was taller than him? But that huge blitz of India shining also did not really pay dividends to that kind of a personality and that kind of a government. So when things start unraveling, they will unravel. We don't have to have a strong personality. But what we need now is an awakening, a consciousness where, look, the path India is going down on now is a wrong path. This is a country, and you see, you can't be a past worshipping country. Well, I am one for getting inspiration from my past, but I do not want India to be taken back into the past. I get inspiration from the past in order to imagine a new India, a better India, a tolerant India, a diverse India, a liberal India, where the poor are taken care of, not just those people who can, use digital currency and plastic currency and things like that. Not just that. So, a replacement, an alternative, I think people are capable of finding.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prabhakar. So, India is going down a dangerous path, and we shouldn't becoming a past worshipping country. A lot of things to unpack from this interview. Thank you very much for joining here at the News Minute.
Thank you very much. Thanks.